How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to my F2 2020 Championship here for round 6 at the Austrian GP. I was hoping to have this out yesterday, but after the TNE Sprint Mode Championship, it was just too tired to record it. It's a lot of fun doing that, so if you have any spare time, I'd recommend looking at the stream I did of it. A lot of good moments in it. But as you can see here, for this qualifying session, it is wet. Luckily it's going to be mainly dry for the feature and the sprint race. So with that, I'll let you look at the rest of the lap. And as we come down to the final two turns, currently around P8, P9, so coming into the last turn, the rear axle completely locks up. We drift around the last turn and we find ourselves down around P18. As we come across the line, we eventually finish down in P19. So it's going to be a real recovery race for the feature race to see if we can get anything from the sprint race, really. So Robert Schwarzman takes pole position ahead of Artem Markelov and Yuki Tsunoda in third. Aiken, Daruvula, Lundgaard, PK, Matsushita, Armstrong, and then Mick Schumacher rounds out the top 10.
Here we are amidst the dense forest and rolling hills of Spielberg in Austria, just 2 hours out of Vienna. It's an amazing destination for the race today, and we're about to get started. Spielberg is a very short lap, one of the shortest we'll see in this Formula 2 Championship. 7 rights and 3 lefts make up the 10 corners of the circuit. The left-hand kink of turn 2, leading into the uphill braking of turn 3, represents another overtake hotspot.
So as we head to the 5 red lights from all the way down in P19 for the feature race, the lights go out and we get a pretty okay start. We haven't lost any positions at the moment, but then that changed very quickly as Sato gets past us. Into turn 1, outbreak a lot of drivers around the outside, almost run into Nissany, who goes a bit deep, I think, into turn 1. In the opening corner, we make up 1 position into P18. We run up to what I'm going to be calling turn 2. We go up the inside of the 2 damaged drivers of Ticktum and Galil, and we also get past Samaya and Nissany. Nissany gets a bare exit out of turn 2 on us on the run down to turn 4, but we make up another 2 positions on the opening lap, and then into braking into turn 4. Think about going for a move on Nissany, but for the moment we remain in position 16. And on the next lap again into turn 4, we're still behind Nissany, but not for much longer, as we go down the inside of the Trident driver and make a move up into P15. So 4 positions gained in the opening 2 laps. We're well on our way to getting what I aimed as a target of P8 and reverse grid pole for the sprint race. So on to lap 4 now, and haven't made up any more positions until now. We go up the inside of the high-tech of Kyoto, are now behind my teammate Guan Yu Zhou. And at this moment I was thinking about the strategy. As you can see here, still behind our teammates, so at the end of this lap, you see I'm going to tell the engineer that I'm going to pit and going to try and get an undercut on the drivers ahead, as at this point of the race I think that I'm quicker than all of them. So dive to the inside the pit entry when I saw that Zhou wasn't going to pit ahead of me, and into the pits, getting down to the speed limit of 60 km/h, just about 59 as we cross the line. And now going to pawn the soft compound tyre and push on this out lap as we try and see if we can get ahead of any of the drivers ahead of us.
See these tires tyres through to the end.
And now on to the pit straight on the very next lap. Some of the cars ahead of me are after pitting out of turn 1, and we're ahead of Schumacher, who was definitely ahead of us before I made my stop. So we're after making up a few positions at least.
That's P14.
And as we go on to the next end of that lap, then say a new fastest lap of the race on our first time lap, and all the other cars end up pitting. And around turn 1, when they're coming out of the pit exit, we're up into P7 ahead of Lungard, just behind Sonoda. So from that undercut we've gained, I think it's 6 positions, and now on lap 9 into turn 2, going to try and make up another position on Sonoda. Into turn 2, try to take a wide line to get a better exit on the run down to turn 4 with the RS, nearly go onto the grass, trying to get down the inside of the Carlin. Going to turn 4, we do get down the inside and up into P6. So far it's been a very good recovery in this race, much better than I'd hoped for. And on to lap 10, we're after getting into the DRS of the cars ahead, but into turn 1 we make a big mistake, locking the rears almost like we did in qualifying at the last turn. That allows Sonoda to get past us, and Lungard's making a move on us as well, as he is DRS and I don't. And into turn 2, I go to take the racing line. I didn't realise Drugovic was on my inside, and I completely turn across the MP Motorsport driver, and we remain in PA, having lost 2 spots to Lungard and Sonoda. Went to turn 4, I decided to let Drugovic go past. I didn't think the way that I accidentally defended into turn 2 was fair, so I thought he deserved to take the position that he was probably going to get on me. So now I just want to try and get back past Drugovic as quick as I can, and from what I can remember I'm going to do that now through the chicane. We get a much better run, and into the final 2 turns, dive down the inside and get the move on the Brazilian and back up into P8. So far on target for what I aimed for first grid pole. But on to the middle of lap 11 now, you can see that says green flag, resume race in the top corner, and that's because there was a yellow flag as Mazepin retires once again, and that brings out the safety car. So I wasn't sure if this was a blessing or a curse for me, because I thought I'd be able to catch up on the 2 ahead and at least get those 2 positions. But now all bunched back up, don't know if I'm going to be able to make up more positions or lose them. But as the safety car comes in, try and stay as close as I can to Sonoda. This track, it's not the easiest to stay close to the car ahead on the safety car restart because of the way that the 2 last turns are. But we managed to get a good restart. Into turn 1 we retained P8. Unfortunately couldn't make up any position on Sonoda. On to lap 14 now. I'm just going to let a lap or 2 run through of me pretty much just stuck in a train of cars, a bit of a DRS train. I'm just going to talk about the F2 2020 update. Some things that I've found to be good about, some things that aren't very good about. Seeing as it's round 6, so halfway through the season, I think I have a pretty good idea at this stage. So first of all, comparing these cars to the 2019 cars, I think they're a lot more fun and a lot better to drive. The traction's a lot better in these cars. You can actually use 3rd gear, whereas in the 2019 cars, if you try to accelerate in 3rd gear, you just completely spin out. These cars, a lot more understeer I feel than the 2019, but the better traction kind of compensates for that. And then I think these cars look a lot better than the 2019 cars, especially with the new bigger 18-inch wheel rims. But one thing that's really been sort of bugging me about this is the driver performance and how the drivers in this, their skill level compared to their real life, how they perform. Just going to put up the standings at the end of Baku now. You can see that Artem Markelov is in 2nd place, whereas in 2020 in the real F2 season he was absolutely nowhere. I think he finished well in the second half of the standings. Same sort of goes for Giotto, he didn't have a great season. And then there's drivers like Yuki Tsunoda who was one of the best drivers this season, and he's only scored 20 points as of the last round. whereas you'd expect him to be almost challenging for the title. The same can be said for Mick Schumacher, who in this championship hasn't performed near as well as he did in real life. Same for his teammate Schwarzman. They both got a few podiums, but you'd expect those two to be fighting for the wins on a regular basis. And then also looking at the teams championship, virtuosi my teams leading the standings, and you'd expect those to be near the front, but Race Lab were honestly shocking this season in real life, so they should be near the bottom end of the standings. A team like Dams, who are down in second last with only 36 points, they should be closer to the top with Dan Tickton, who performed well in the first half of the 2020 season. The same with High Tech. As much as nobody likes them for recent events, Mazepin did perform well in the 2020 season, so High Tech and him should also be a bit further up the standings, as much as I hate to say that. And then also, I think I mentioned it in the last video, the safety car comes out so much in this championship, and it's honestly a bit of a joke. I think it comes out too frequently. And then the same with the frequency of driver retirements. I don't think there was that many retirements in the real life F2 season, but every race there's at least 2 drivers who DNF from some sort of mechanical failure. All in all, I think it's a very good update, mainly because the cars are just very fun to drive. But it would be nice to see the driver performance tweaked a bit, so the best drivers are fighting towards the front, and drivers that aren't as good aren't fighting for podiums and wins. So with that little rant over, we're on to the start of lap 17, into turn 1. Tsunoda brakes very early and we almost sneak up the inside of the car. It wasn't an intentional move, but when he broke so early I had to go to the inside to avoid him, and it almost turned into an overtake. As into turn 2, cars ahead were fighting and we go around the outside of Tsunoda. With the outside line, the wider line, we get a much better exit than the Japanese Honda junior driver and move up into P7. And then on the run down into turn 4, we get a much better run on Aiken, who locks up and seems to turn across a bit in the braking zone, so we make a small bit of contact. Luckily no damage, but also couldn't make an overtake there, whereas it looked like it was going to get a very poor run through the next corner. Had to try and regain composure after the contact, wasn't really expecting it. And through this chicane we get a good run on the Campos driver ahead. Start again. I was thinking about making a move like we did on Drugovic earlier in the race, but pole position for the time being, and just going to try and get into his DRS and make a move on the next lap. As out of the final turn we get a great run with DRS, we go to the inside and we have the move done before we even start to brake for turn 1 and up into P6. I was on to the final lap of the race, into turn 2. Once again, Markelov, like I think it was Tsunoda, brakes very early into turn 2. We go down the inside of the race lap driver and move up into P5. Going through the final turn now, we can't make up any more positions. Robert Schwarzman wins the race and we come home for a very good P5 from P19 on the grid. So great damage limitation there.
Take care of the car on the way in.
Thrilling race here today. We can now see the drivers take their places on the podium. It's a familiar sight by now, as it's another successful F2 win for Prema.
So as I said, Robert Schwarzman takes the win of the feature race ahead of Jehan Ruvla and Marcus Armstrong round out the podium. Christian Lundgaard takes P4 ahead of himself, with Artur Markelov just behind in P6, Tsunoda in 7 and Mick Schumacher taking reverse grip pole in P8, with Felipe Drugovic and Matsushita rounding out the top 10. But we go to the start of the sprint race. 5 red lights are on, and as they go out we get a pretty good initial start, but as we shift up into third gear we get a lot of wheel spin and we lose a few positions on the run into turn 1. We're going down the inside and on the exit we end up down in P8, so we've lost 4 positions at the start On the run up into turn 2 in the slipstream with Drogovic. I was looking to have go down the inside, but Drogovic covers that off and almost tries to make a move on Armstrong ahead, but he gets compromised on the exit, and around the outside we managed to get a move on the Brazilian up into P7. Then down into turn 3, brake later than Armstrong, look to the inside, but he turns in, which is fair enough because we weren't really far enough alongside, there weren't any room. So we dropped 3 positions in total on lap 1. On the end of lap 1 then, in the slipstream behind the ART into turn 1, we brake later down the inside and make up another position. So up into P6 now as Armstrong is coming under pressure from Drogovic behind. End of lap 2 now, fastest laps are coming in from almost everyone, but we take the fastest lap at this stage as we try and catch up to the cars ahead. And on to the end of lap 4 now, there's a yellow flag as we go through the final turns, as on the last lap Drogovic actually retired, so unfortunate for him. But now, once again, fastest laps are coming in, and once again, like previously, we end up with the extra points at this stage. And on to lap 5 now.
Radar suggests some weather is going to hit in around 5 minutes time, so stay on your toes.
See there, asking Jeff about the weather because I knew there was a chance of rain in this race, and you heard him say there that it should be coming in around 5 minutes time. So I wanted to try and make some moves now while it was dry, because that's when I felt I was quickest compared to the AI. And we do so up into turn 2, down the inside of Ruvula, and we make our way into P5. And now on to the next lap, you can already see that it's starting to get darker. As into turn 2 again, I wasn't going to try and make a move there on Lungard, but we broke so early into that corner that the opportunity just presented itself. And now we're in the slipstream, gaining on the ART and down into turn 3, down the inside, and we get the move done. And after 8 laps we finally find ourselves back up into position that I started. And as you saw there, selecting the wet tyres on the MFD just in case we have to pit if the rain gets hard enough. And on lap 10 now, you can just about see on the halo that the rain is starting to fall. So with 4 laps left, it's hard to know if the rain will get heavy enough to warrant pitting, or if it'll be quicker to stay out on the dry tyres. And now on to the start lap 11, you can see that the rain is starting to get a lot harder, and I'm already starting to feel the effects of that as out of turn 1 get a lot of wheel spin, lose the back end, and that allows Lungard to get past us as try to get back into the slipstream of the Danish driver, but end up running onto the grass and losing even more time. So not a great sequence of corners there. Out of turn 2, getting a lot of wheel spin once again, as at this stage I think the wet tyres would be quicker than the dries, but don't know if it'll be worth pitting. As into turn 3, see there, locking the rears and losing the back end, and once again out of the corner we completely lose the rear, hit the wall and spin back across the track. And unfortunately we end up collecting Armstrong in that collision and end up bringing out the safety car. And I'm going to see here a few replays. See there, losing the back end, drifting around turn 3, have a bit of contact with Ruvula but don't get any damage for that, and then completely lose the rear end, a spin into the barrier on the inside, and that bounces back across the track. You can see here from Armstrong's perspective, there was no way he could really avoid that. It was just wrong place, wrong time, and that means that I have to pit. There was no wing left, and just through salt in the wound, he speed into the pit lane, getting a 5-second penalty. And as I said before, I think the wets are quicker at this stage, so we put those on, and as we exit the pit, the safety car is already coming in, so unfortunately we won't even have a chance to catch up to the safety car queue, because as you'll see on the mini-map going up this straight, that the training cars are already in the middle sector. So unfortunately won't be able to get anything from this race. And on the start of lap 13 you could see there that I was 20 seconds behind the cars ahead. And on to the end of the race now, end of lap 14, we're only 2.5 seconds ahead. So gained about 18 seconds in 2 laps there, but it's worth nothing because we come home in P20 and score no points in this sprint race.
The victory ceremony once again, as I can see the drivers beginning to make their way out for the celebrations. You can see it on their faces. It's another marvellous team win for Prema today.
So Mick Schumacher takes the victory, making it a double win this weekend for the Prema team, with Artem Markelov getting 2nd place and Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the podium. Christian Lundgaard claims P4 ahead of Jehan Daruvla and Pedro Piquet, with Nobuharu Matsushita and Robert Schwarzman rounding out the points positions in this race. And looking at the weekend standings then, Schwarzman takes the most points this weekend with his win in the feature race ahead of Daruvla and Christian Lundgaard in 3rd. And in the Drivers' Championship, my advantage has decreased majorly after a very poor weekend, and because of Prema's great weekend with 2 wins, they overtake Virtuosi in the Teams' Championship. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, see you there.